First of all, I have to give the disclaimer that although there may be a fact or two in this, it is Bob's opinion. Bob's opinion. Although I will speak as if it's fact. We're just going to say up front it's my opinion and I can run with it. Okay. So, oh, that font's not big enough. Guess I need my computer fixed. First, let's take a little test.
Okay.
You should all have a piece of paper and a pencil. Now, you don't actually have to write the answers down if you don't want to. You're not going to have to share them with anybody else. Okay, we're not going to have to talk about your answers. All I ask is that you be honest with yourself. Okay? So, question number 1. Imagine me the way I normally dress, in jeans and a tie-dye shirt.
That's the question.
Imagine seeing me for the first time here in church. You haven't met me yet, you've just seen me. What are your first impressions? Number 2, imagine me in the same attire, but you see me as an ultra left-wing guest on CNN. What are your first impressions? Now imagine if I was dressed like this. Does it change your first impressions? Now imagine you first see me on Fox News as an ultra-conservative right-wing guest. And what are your first impressions? Next, you meet me for the first time in a dark alley dressed in motorcycle leather. And what are your first impressions? Or maybe the first time you see me, I have a turban or whatever on my head. I'm in the desert and I'm carrying an assault rifle. And what are your first impressions? So, are all your first impressions the same? If they are, you're a wonderful person. I love you. Either that or we can stay on the other side of the church from each other. You don't have to talk to me. Was it all in appearance? Or were your first impressions conditional on the situation? Page 2. All of these are little prejudices. We don't like to think of ourselves as prejudiced. And I know most of us here try desperately not to be. But we all have opinions of what we see at first sight. We all make an opinion right there based on numerous things in our past that have driven us to that. Maybe we have first-hand experience with someone that appeared the same way. Most of the time we don't. Did your opinions of me change once you knew me? Did that change things at all? If not, again, you can stay on that side of the church and I'll stay over here. Now, after knowing me, stay. If you met someone that was comparable to me in the way I look, would you still have the first impression of them that you did of me? Or would knowing me change that at all? Would your first-hand knowledge of me change your first impression of someone else? Our impression of people we don't know is something we've learned. And most of the time we've learned it from someone else. And most of the time they learned it from someone else. And so on and so on. And so no one has first-hand experience. I won't say no one, but generally speaking, if you don't know someone or haven't met someone, you have no first-hand experience with the people being judged, that you're judging. Okay? Now, again, this may come from learned experiences or whatever. But you see TV. TV shows you what they want. Okay? So, this is just an example. But most of the Muslims you see on the news are terrorists. That's what they show you. That's what they want you to see. And so people start to believe that all Muslims are terrorists. They push you to hate an entire group of people that neither they nor you have any first-hand experience with. And people believe them because they have no one else to tell them what's what. So they believe them. Oh wait, that's supposed to be crossed off. This was 2 a.m. with a pen. At midnight, it was an hour and a half long, so we'll probably get out of here quick. Okay. If they can do that here with educated people, imagine what you can do with the uneducated, with the isolated, with the forgotten people. Let's call them the hopeless, people who have virtually no hope left. These are the target recruitment base for all kinds of groups to recruit from. They don't want you to be educated. They want you to be in a position where you don't see a way out. That's what they're looking for. Okay, this part goes up here. From street gangs to terrorists to criminals of all kinds, the only ray of hope is some brave churches recruit there also. To understand how this works, you must know or can truly imagine hopelessness. For those of you that have never had one moment of hopelessness in your life, I am truly happy for you. Truly. For those of you who have, I'm sorry. I've been there. I've been to the bottom and seen no way out. This is not an AA meeting, so we won't go there. No. I try to make light a little bit because this is pretty serious. So if this gets difficult for anybody who's been in a hard position, don't sit here and suffer through this. Go ahead and step out. Okay? So, but remember or imagine that sense of hopelessness. Think about it, really. Life is at its worst. There's no chance of it getting better. You just do what your parents and their parents and so on did, because it's the only thing you know. You figure most everyone lives the same way as you, except the really rich. You don't see them. Your town, you were born there. Your parents were born there. You worked there. You died there. You haven't seen anything else of the world. No, I lost my place. Okay. No one leaves and returns with wonderful tales of how green the grass is over the hill. You just don't know. You think this is life and that's all there is to it. It's just misery day after day. No, maybe it'll get better one day. You see absolutely no way out of this life. Well, and remember, if you've been hopeless, this is not for a day, a week, a month, a year, or even a decade. This is your entire life. You feel this way. You're just pushing on. A hopeless person is like a drowning person. They will grab at anything. It doesn't matter if it's disgusting. It only matters if it floats. So now, someone comes in and says, if you come with me, not only will I make your life better, but you will help as we make life better for everybody. Your parents, your children, your grandchildren. We will improve the world. They give you hope. They take you in. They may even be the very people responsible for your misery. You don't know. But those that choose to go, they take them away. They show them love and comradeship. Everything is better instantly. They have more food. They have clothes. They have a place to stay. Then comes the indoctrination. They're taught exactly who the group believes is the source of everyone's suffering. It could be Israelis or Russians or blacks or Jews, homosexuals or redheads with brown eyes. But once you are a believer, you're now a soldier in your new group army. Ready to kill or give your life just to rid the world of those pesky redheads. So the hopeless are the breeding ground for most hate groups in the world. 80% of the world's population lives on the equivalent of less than $10 a day. Imagine that. $10 a day. That's a little bit below what we consider the poverty level. It's a little below minimum wage. Most of these people fear for their lives. They're being bombed, or they're being missiled, or they don't know who's going to show up to take away the children. People are gunned down in the streets or gassed by their own government. The people who are supposed to protect them are hurting them. So they have nothing, and they live in fear. And so if someone gives them a little grain of hope, they're going to take it. Going to take it. 80% of the world's population. That's one huge breeding ground for hate. Oh, we go back up here. Okay, so we look at hopelessness as the core problem, which means working on anything else is working on symptoms and not the problem. We can keep hiding our heads in the sand, or we can throw money and band-aids at the token money and band-aids at the symptoms, or we can attack the problem head on. All keeping our heads in the sand has been to increase the size of the breeding ground to a virtual tipping point. If we continue with business as usual, the world will erupt. People will have had enough, and they will take that grain of hope and the rifle that comes with it. And if we think it's bad now, it'll just get worse. If we remember the Arab Spring, that was when the poor in the Arab countries had had enough. And they rose up against their country. We have almost exactly the same disparity between wealthy and poor that they did. So if we think it can't happen here, you haven't watched street gangs. You haven't watched the news and see how many people walk into a high school with a gun. These are people who have lost hope. We could throw token amounts of money at the symptoms, but never actually address the problem, and maybe keep the status quo where it is. Maybe. Missed half a sentence. Now, addressing the problem is difficult because we're not used to fixing problems. The government sets up a department to fix a problem, but if they fix the problem, then the entire department is no longer necessary, and up goes unemployment. We can't have that. That leaves attacking the problem head on. The challenge is to bring hope to the hopeless. Yes, the world needs love. Yes, the world needs a lot of things. But hope to the hopeless can change the world. I don't know how to do this yet, but I'm working on it. And I'll let you know when I have a workable idea. All I can think of now are missionaries of hope. Okay? An optimistic approach and not a religious one. Telling someone they have to do as you say or they will burn in hell for all eternity is not hopeful. It sounds more like, I guess I'm going to burn because I can't even speak your language. But the challenge before us is to find ways to bring hope to the world. In my mind, this is one of the top problems that needs to be addressed in our world. Think about it. 80% of the world's population lives on less than $10 a day. Think about places in Africa where they're afraid to go on the streets, where hundreds of young girls are kidnapped and taken away. Darfur, where if you're not armed, you're dead. There's a lot of hopelessness in this world. And that's the fight that we need to fight. We have to find a way to bring hope to these people. We can send them money, which never gets there. It stays in the hands of the people in charge. We can do, we can send whatever we want. We can say whatever we want. It's easy to talk from up here when I have a house and I have a vehicle and my child's clothed and fed, is going to school, where I don't have to worry about somebody blowing up my house. I don't have to worry about somebody coming in trying to take my son for an army. It's easy for me to talk about it. We have to find what's hard. We have to find a way to make it work. I didn't mean to bring everybody down. It's not one of my usual lighthearted talks. But I think it's important. It's something I've been working on, trying to put this talk together for months, actually. But it's important, at least to me. So I brought it to you all. What can we do? I hope we can find some ideas somewhere. Like I said, we're going to end up out of here quick, because I cut half of it out. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. And remember, be excellent to each other.